30 years into the fight against HIV-AIDS, and Dr. Don Francis is still mad as hell. Why? Well, let's go back a bit. At a time, there was a confusion and fear about what AIDS was and how you could get it. Don was among the first scientists to suggest that it was caused by an infectious agent. Discoveries that were dramatized in this HBO film and the band played on, in which Don was played by Matthew Modine.
I just got a call from Paris. They think they found the AIDS virus.
And although treatment for AIDS has come a long way, the sheer level of the human tragedy remains overwhelming. 36 million lives lost, according to the WHO. 35 million people living with HIV-AIDS, the 6th leading cause of death globally. And if you ask Don, it didn't have to be this way. And he doesn't pull punches when it comes to the politicians that he feels neglected what was an unfolding disaster. And now Don, a vital witness in the Creever inquiry into Canada's blood system, aimed at preventing another AIDS tragedy, is driven as ever to realize his primary goal, a vaccine for HIV.
Please welcome Dr. Don Francis. Doctor, how are you? What an incredible life you've led, and what an amazing amount of journeys you've been on. I want to start by playing a clip from you on this network in 1984.
No,
okay,
really?
Yeah, 1984 on the National. Here's the good doc.
For people with the disease, like little Dane, for people who will probably develop it, like his mother, and for the disease generally, the outlook is depressing.
Even when we find the cause now, we are tied into the set that exists today for a long while to come. There's no doubt that this virus is established in this country and will be for many, many years, if not forever.
Dr. Don Francis, can you imagine when you were saying that, were you saying it with a little bit of hope?
You know, at that time, the hope was minimal, that we had literally people dying around us like flies, and the thought was kind of a dual thought. One was vaccines, and this was my thought of making vaccines, we'd have a vaccine. Second was we'd have a therapy, and that seemed to be so distant because there's so few therapies for viruses, and that the hope was in some ways a hope only.
Decades into it, are you where you thought you would be?
Oh. You know, we knew it was very, very bad. You know, I came out of very bad viruses before HIV, with smallpox and Ebola, and so that was my thing, was bad viruses. But
So when you walked into a hospital, did people shudder and get scared because they're like, uh-oh, Dr. Bad Virus is here?
No, actually turned around with my first time I walked into a hospital with HIV, I was very concerned, because here we had really very healthy people who, you know, 6 months ago started getting sick, and now they were comatose, and we knew that they were going to die in a few days. And it, for me, as a bad bug doc, it was more than frightening. Right. And the challenge we had then was to educate the world, and especially the United States, where we were generally the leaders on responding to infectious diseases around the world. But unfortunately, we had an administration above us that just didn't give a flying fig, and we're stuck between a rock and a hard place.
The Reagan administration.
This was Ronald Reagan himself and his group, who literally, they were very interested in defense, but for some reason, that defense investment was limited to warfare and not to prevention of disease, which was just shocking.
What is the cost, do you think, in your own psychology, of being around not just inaction, but obstruction?
Having your bosses, because you are working in an organization when you're in the government, you're having your bosses saying, no, we're not going to support that. And then having that be in the United States of America and being then repeated very much. But it certainly takes chinks out of my pleasantness of attitude. Because I could, you know, when the United States or Washington, D.C. named its airport Ronald Reagan, I could have puked.
Yeah. I remember my mom was coming home. She was a nurse and would come home from the hospital every day and say, there's this thing, we don't know what this is. It was in the 80s. She said, it's killing these young boys. They're terrified. because it's like they're in incubation. They're so hazmated up. No one knows what to do here. And it was terrifying. And then I see this movie, right? Take a look at this film here.
How many dead hemophiliacs do you need? How many people have to die to make it cost efficient for you people to do something about it? 100? 1,000? Give us a number so we won't annoy you again until the amount of money you begin spending on lawsuits makes it more profitable for you to save people than to kill them.
That's from the band played on. That's Matthew Modine, and Matthew Modine is playing the good doctor. Was that an accurate depiction of the day?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah. I'm not sure that's the best way to make government policy, but there are limits to our... this was supposed to be a very straightforward meeting of... I mean, here we had gay men who were affected with this disease donating blood and plasma, and clearly they shouldn't be doing that when we had a disease that was that we knew was transmissible by blood, and it would have been easy to scale up a whole variety of things of how we could eliminate that, both by asking questions and by doing blood tests for hepatitis that is so commonly infecting gay men and intravenous drug users. So it was a straightforward thing, and I came to that meeting expecting it all to be, you know, another dull government meeting getting things done. And boy, it was, here there was a institution of blood collectors that, and this is both the quote not-for-profit volunteer sector and the for-profit plasma collectors, that had all teamed up and were just denying the whole thing. Right. And so this went on, then the FDA buckled on this, the US FDA buckled, and they did nothing for another year, year and a half before any testing was done. And tens of thousands of people died because of that. It was just stupid.
You're around a lot of life, but you're around a lot of death. What's your relationship with death like?
I hate death. I don't go, in AIDS, I stopped going to funerals. Yeah. As a pediatrician, I hated to see postmortems on my patients and stuff. So I just don't, I just carry on. I don't want to, I hate funerals.
Even Irish wakes, come on.
Well, a good Irish wake, maybe.
What a pleasure to see you, man. Thanks
so much. My pleasure.
Dr. Brown, thanks, everybody. We'll be right back.